we had the pleasure to work with them in this project we are going to tell you about, which is Empower. That stands for designing and development of a digital education tool for stakeholders in education. It is a project funded by the European Union's Autism-Europe program, which is primarily focused on the development of executive functions and autism, on self-regulation in students attending primary school mainly. Okay. So it is a project that has been developed by these organizations, University of Valencia in Spain, Radboud University in the Netherlands, Universitatea Babes Bolyai from Romania, HVL from Norway, Universitatea Tehnică Cluj-Napoca in Romania as well, also Autism-Europe, Instituto de Ingeniería Sistemas y Computadores in Portugal, and University Institute of Lisbon, also here, and IT Data Telecom. We are a very big team that have been working for 3 years. This is our last month of the project, so we are finishing the project right now. And all these people have intensively worked on the project for these 3 years. So I would like to thank all of you for your wonderful work. And a small group of these people will be today introducing the different parts of the development. So first, Christina will talk about the role of executive functions and emotional regulation in education. Christina Costescu from University Babes Bolyai. Then my colleague Lucia Vera from the University of Valencia, together with Ilona from HVL, will talk about the Empower platform, and we'll show you the serious game we have developed there. After that, Paula da Costa Ferreira from the University of Lisboa. She will summarize the findings in the pilot and validation studies and the randomized control trial we have conducted in the schools in Portugal and Romania. And to finalize, Aurélie Varanier will coordinate a question and answer sessions. Okay? So, Christina?
Thank you very much, Gerardo. So good evening. I'm very happy that you joined our workshop. I'm Christina Costescu. I'm from Romania. I'm an associate professor at the Babes Bolyai University in the Department of Special Education. So we started designing this platform, and we had in mind one of the major things that is considered today to be a transdiagnostic profile of executive functions in neurodivergent people. We were thinking which will be the most important abilities that can help students, neurodivergent students, to improve their academic performance, quality of life, emotional and social abilities. And looking in the literature, we found that executive functions, together with emotional regulation, are linked with success in different areas. Therefore, starting with a very known model of executive functions developed by Jones and Bailey, where they discussed about working memory, attention shifting, inhibition, flexibility, and delay of gratification, we started thinking how all this influences planning, goal setting, and performance in the school. We added the emotional control and emotional regulation part together with the social control, because it's not enough to do a cognitive training in order to succeed in the classroom. It's also important how you regulate emotions, how you interact with others, and this is something that we considered in our platform development. So together with my colleagues, and I'm really happy to have them all here, we developed this idea of having a platform that puts together cognitive processes, as I mentioned before, with emotional factors, to have different levels of integration of the devices, strategies, and to see how can this be transformed into an assessment and training tool. There are a lot of theoretical frameworks in the domain of executive functions and also in emotion regulation, but we wanted to go to applied psychology and applied tools that can be used by teachers in special schools and in mainstream schools. So what we did, we designed together with the psychologists, people from special ed, teachers, neurodiverse people, autistic individuals. We designed 5 games that each of them have different levels of difficulty. Each of them target one of the executive functions that we found in the literature to be important, and 3 emotional regulation games that you will see later. They are focusing on naming, emotion recognition, on emotion understanding, emotion intensity, and emotion regulation. So what we thought it would be useful, we designed the games based on the standardized tasks that we found in the literature. So this is an evidence-based approach. So we used tasks that were tested and we knew for sure that they are working. For example, we took the continuous performance test for developing the attention game. We took the Corsi block for developing the working memory game. We took the Stroop task and so on. So in this way, we can be sure that the mechanisms that is behind the task is working. Afterwards, we developed a story because, as we know from developing digital tools, it's very important to have the story, to have a narrative behind. And we designed an eco-farm where the children had to go through different types of tasks to pick mushrooms, to help the farmer, to clean the yard, to collect peppers, and so on. And we didn't stop at looking at the performance that we gained from the games. We also included wearables for physiological reactions, and also the eye tracker in order to analyze the visual path of the children and how that influences the learning process. Therefore, this is the games that we had for executive functions. You can see the game where they need to pick the mushrooms, peppers, collect the garbage, waiting for the bees to produce some honey, and selecting vegetables and fruits for the market. These games, as I mentioned, all the games have different levels of difficulty, and we had selected the games and for the interventions on those where children had difficulties in playing, and then based on their strengths, we developed the training. Each of the tasks had several steps in developing, as I mentioned, and we took the main idea, the main definition. So what we did at the beginning with teachers, we developed definitions, and then we tried to make every game to have a solid background. And then based on this, we developed the contents of the game. Here is just one example of what we used in how to measure attention, for example. So when the child selected the mushroom, there is correct answer, like when the target mushroom appeared, the child needs to click, and then if the child gets it right, then it's correct present. So you will see that every single game has this kind of measurements that are linked with performance, and not only in the tasks, but also in the classroom. So usually this is how we measure visual search, for example. This is how we measure working memory, okay? Remembering the number of peppers that they needed to collect, remembering the order of peppers in which the peppers turn yellow. So these are all measurements that we had from the literature, and they were present in the platform. Moreover, as I mentioned, we looked at the eye tracker measurement fixations, and my colleague will explain better. we wanted to see where the children are looking during the task and how is this linked with performance. And we are in the process of developing some areas of interest measurements and to see how a specific visual path is connected with improved performance, especially during longitudinal interventions. Because what we did, we didn't use only as an assessment for executive functions, we also used this as a training tool, as I mentioned, and we had 20 interventions for each of the children that were involved in our studies, and then now we are looking at the final results. So definitely when we are looking on using technologies, we have a lot of limitations, and ecological validity is often one of the main limitations that we have. We tried to overcome this, even though it's not totally as we envision it, but we used the platform within schools. Teachers were the one that applied the interventions, and this increases a lot the ecological validity. We tried to not focus only on single executive functions, like some of the platforms that we have or we've seen some of the trainings do. So we try to have a complex platform that has different type of executive functions and emotion regulation abilities. And of course, we try to do the platform to be used for like off-the-shelf devices, so there is no need for a special device. So the platform can be used without the eye tracker, for example, which we know that it's expensive and sometimes more difficult to use. So it can be used on a tablet that teachers have on schools. And then, of course, the clinical comorbidities that we know that usually when we have a diagnosis, it's not a single diagnosis. So our children, being from schools from Romania, we had more than 100 children involved in our studies. They do have these comorbidities, and we took the intervention in real settings with the comorbidities that they have. So we tried to overcome some of the limitations. Of course, we didn't, as I mentioned, manage to overcome all of them, but my colleague will present the platform, how it really works, and the results, and the way the children interacted with the platform. Thank you very much for your attention. Lucia?
Thank you, Christina. Well, I will present the platform, the Empower platform, with the technological part. In this case, as Christina mentioned, we have different games inside the platform, 5 games for to train executive functions, and 3 for the emotion regulation. And in our platform, we have different devices combined. We need a laptop or a computer for the serious games. Then we have a teacher application to control the sessions and check the progress of the children in a tablet. Then we use the eye tracker to control where the child is looking. Also a wearable to register all the physiological signals. And all of the data is stored in a database to control the variables and know the progress of the child. Of course, as Christina mentioned, it's a very flexible platform because you can use only the laptop with the games and it's okay. Or you can add the eye tracker if you need, depending on your possibilities or the devices that you have. Okay. Well, as I mentioned, we have these games. For the attention, we have a Mushroom Hunter game. We are going to show to see the games, each one later. So then we have a working memory game, an inhibition game, cognitive flexibility game, and delay gratification game. For the emotion regulation, we have 3 different games also. The content of the games are more or less the same. They have tasks, more similar tasks, but the difference is the main game that the child has to play. Okay, this is the attention game. You can see the video. It's not playing, no? Yes? No? Well, this game is called, no. Okay, thank you. This game is called Mushroom Hunter, and the main objective of this game is to try to find the objective, the target, that is a mushroom, but a concrete, specific mushroom. And you have different distractors that are flowers or butterflies and other kind of mushrooms. So the child has only to press the mouse button or the touch screen when he or she shows the specific mushroom. We control the correct answers, the errors, when the mushroom is present or is not present, and so on. Also, in the upper part, we have a progress bar when you see how many trials the child has to do. In this case, we have 60 trials. And we have 3 different levels where the distractor changes, and also the time to respond is less as the level grows. In this case, we have the working memory game. It's a more complex game because you have like 2 parts. In the first part, you have to classify the peppers depending on if the pepper has worms or not in different baskets. And after that, the doors are closing, and you have to select the peppers in the correct order that they become yellow. So they have, the child has to remember the correct sequence and click on the pepper to specify the sequence that he or she remembers. In this case, they have to do 5 trials, and we have 3 levels with different numbers of peppers that become yellow. The sequence is bigger as the level grows. Then for the inhibition game, we have 2 different elements in the garden, and the child has to pick all the elements, all the trash in the garden first, and after that, each element will show up, and the child has to select if the bin that is open is correct or not. The child has to classify and recycle the objects inside the bins. In this case, we have 12 trials. In the progress bar, you can see the slots, and 3 different levels, and that changes the number of elements that the child has to classify, and also the time that the child has to respond. For cognitive flexibility, we have different elements that appear in the table, and the child has to classify them in the grades, depending on 3 criteria: shape, number, or color. They didn't know which is the criteria, so they have to try to match in the correct criteria. And the application informs about if it's an error, and you have to remind that the criteria is different in this case, and so on. The child has to complete 6 trials, and each trial has 10 elements to classify. Again, we have 3 levels in this game, and the difference is the objects that we use, that is in this case are fruits or vegetables or flowers, and the quantity of crates that we have to match. For delay of gratification, the game is in a bee farm, and the child has to wait until the beekeeper appears to press the button that is in the middle of the screen. Depending on the time, the quantity of time the child waits, the child will get a different quantity of honey, and she or he will use it to play a mini game after the main game. So depending on the quantity of honey, the time for playing the minigame will be more or less. In this case, we have only 3 trials, and the level, depending on the level, the child has to wait more until the beekeeper appears. In the case of the emotion games, the place where we place all the games is in a farm fair. And these games have a bit more complex because there are a first main game and inside different tasks to cover the emotion naming, emotion recognition, emotion understanding, emotion intensity, and also emotion regulation. The child has to complete 3 trials, then overcome an obstacle, and after that, another 5 more trials for the main game. We have only 2 different levels where we work with different emotions in each level. Depending on the game, you have a main task. In this case, for example, is the emotion wheel, where the child has to play with the emotion wheel and match the emotion that is selected in the wheel with the cards that appear on the right. Depending on that, we register the correct answers and so on. And after that, the child has to overcome an obstacle that in this case is a child taking the place of the child and playing with the wheel. So the child has to wait 1 minute. And after that, we ask what is the emotion or how he or she feels about this problem in the game. And after this selection, they have to select also the emotion, also the intensity, and the strategies they can use to overcome this emotion. I don't know if I have time. Oh, thank you. Because the video is longer, so okay. Then we have the control game. In this case, we also work with emotions and the selection and the matching between emotions. And you have to throw a pillow to the correct board that has the same emotion. The obstacle in this case is that the game stops because the holes of the boards are completely full of trash. So you cannot throw the pillows. Also, this obstacle lasts 1 minute and has the same tasks. Yeah. And finally, we have the egg pyramid, that the main game is to create a pyramid using eggs. And the difficulty in this case are different depending on the level. The first one is that the child finishes in second place. So the emotion will be different. And in the second level, the child, there are a lot of chicks appearing, so the game stops and they cannot finish the pyramid. In general, we have, depending on the performance in the game, all the games provide badge and stars, so the child can buy things on the shop. Maybe to play mini games or also to buy elements for his or her avatar. Also, at the end of each game, we have like a screen with the main results and also a feedback provided to the child about the performance and how to improve that performance. I let Victor, my colleague Victor, to present the teacher app and the wearable.
Thank you. Okay, so you saw all the games that were implemented, but these games are actually dedicated to childs playing them. And obviously we have also teachers. And for them, we developed this app, which is called Teacher App, which will help help teachers in this process. And basically this application will manage different kids that are playing the games, and the teacher will have the possibility to visualize the progress of each individual kid and also to make decision on the intervention plan. Using this teacher app, the teacher will actually see the initial evaluation, so the results of the kid playing all the games, and based on this initial assessment, the teacher will actually make an intervention plan. The teacher will also have the possibility to visualize different graphical representation of the progress of the child, and it is also used to make some decisions in which way you need to progress with the kid. Obviously, we are relying in this platform not only on a computer, but we also have different sensors. For instance, we have smartwatches, we have eye trackers, and so on. And obviously, in some cases, these devices are not actually working. And based on the fact that the child is alone in front of a computer playing the game, the teacher needs to have the possibility to visualize the state of these devices. And in this teacher application, the teacher will actually visualize the status of these components, and he will know how to manage these issues if they will appear during this process. Using this teacher app, we also make some control on the teacher, meaning that we specify using different kinds of algorithms, for instance, what level of difficulty should a particular kid play a particular game. Okay, but also in this case, the teacher has the full power. For instance, he can change this suggestion. On the next slide, you will see different screens that are displayed to the teacher. So this is the main dashboard. Here you see, as a teacher, different information. So, for instance, the students that don't have an intervention plan, then you have the possibility to visualize different sessions that are performed in a particular week. Here you see the initial evaluation, and the teacher could, for instance, validate or invalidate some of these results. For instance, in some cases, the devices weren't performing good, for instance, and the teacher could invalidate, for instance, some of tests. For each of the students, the teacher has the possibility to visualize the progress in each of the 8 games, and also it has the possibility to visualize in a graphical manner the progress of the kid. We are relying, for instance, in this case, on wearable devices. Here are some technical details. We are using different sensors that are provided by these smartwatches. We are using off-the-shelf devices, so devices that can be easily got. Obviously, there are some challenges. For instance, in this case, some of the students doesn't want to wear this kind of devices. Also, these smartwatches are not actually designed for the hands of the kids, so we need to make some adjustments. And also, if you let the device working on a long period of time, you have different issues, for instance, an overheat of the device. Okay, and I think that's it from my point.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm coming from Bergen, and my role here is to argue for the benefit of using sensory technologies, sensor technologies for, and especially eye tracker for this platform. You heard a lot from my colleagues because they develop the games, they develop rules for the games, and they develop additional applications that can be used in the platform. Our role, my university's role, is to combine all those informations, having the earlier information about the diagnosis, having data on the focus of attention calculated by eye tracking technologies, having data from the wearables, and mixing all those things and trying to find patterns that we can help teachers afterwards to define those rules that Victor was speaking about. So again, the chain of all those activities actually hide many sensory technologies, and how is the AI behind the platform? It is not necessarily clear. So we have those diagnoses, for example, that are done by psychologists earlier, and after that, our psychologist needs to know more about the executive functions and those emotion regulation that Christina was talking about, and how those can be translated into game elements. This is not easy. What are those objects that are important or not important, what are distracting or helping the children with neurodevelopmental disorder, and how the different neurodevelopmental disorders are looking and focusing differently on objects. After this work is done, could we begin with our work? Here you can ask Are for how he did for eye tracking technologies, how to align and those proper measurements from the screens with measurements from sensory technologies, and how to make sense of that based on those functions that psychologists define it. So somehow we are catched in 3 necessary works that had to be done by 3 very different professionals. They had to collaborate to each other. And after that, those patterns that Victor was talking about in the teacher's app, they had to be calculated, and they had to be aggregating and making sense of that. So how the individual informations are calculated it seems easier on the teacher's app for the teachers who does not know, but they need to trust about that, and all those theories that Christina argued in the beginning needs to be there behind the numbers. So our main task from my university is doing those alignments, those defining those objects and trying to make sense of that, aligning data from what one sees on the screen. And yes, of course, it is done earlier, but not for games, not for dynamic information. You can ask, or I can illustrate. It is very difficult to make sense of that data. And another student, PhD student from our university, is working on using AI for making those patterns, defining those patterns enough relevant to suggest correct suggestions for the teachers from the teacher's app. Yes, thank you. Now is Paula, please. The green button.
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Paula. I'm from Portugal. I work for the University of Lisbon, and I collaborated in this project through ISCTE, which is a partner university of the project, and also together with mine, my university. So basically what I'm going to show you is how it all went about, how we actually operationalized all of this with children in context, with high ecological validity. We did not remove the children from their own environment into a laboratory. What we did was we went to them to provide them with a comfortable environment in which they could play the games and learn. Okay, so the first step was basically we had to focus on their school schedule to make sure that the sessions where we were going to be with them, or the sessions in which their teachers were going to apply or let them play the games, would not interfere with anything concerning their classes or their regular school work. So we did not in any way want to impose schedules or interfere negatively with our regular learning processes and scheduling. So we carefully looked at their own schedules to see how we could go about that. And then what we did was we also scheduled with their teachers together in collaboration with them, and also with the participation of the students, because they also had a voice, and they told us whether or not they wanted to play the games on that day. So we would schedule everything and together with their teachers, but the children could tell us, no, not today, I don't want to play today. So that was very important. Most of them wanted to play and even wanted to stay there more than what we had scheduled. And there were moments in which we enabled them to. And so it was really quite positive for them, and also for us and the teachers, because we really just organized the schedule together with the children. And how did we do it in terms of support for the teachers and for the students? We actually created a schedule for us, for the different researchers to accompany and support every single session. So we could make sure things would go on properly and that they had the necessary support from our behalf. This was done in Portugal and in Romania. Okay, so you know that there was a lot of support in both countries. Okay, so what we did also was in the pilot phase, we worked very closely with our technical teams, the engineering departments, from the different countries, to make sure that we found all the possible mistakes, and we would literally, in the middle of a pilot session, communicate through WhatsApp. We used WhatsApp a lot. It was a great and helpful instrument for us to communicate all together from the different countries. So we could literally report a problem, and a minute later it was fixed. So we were really together in collaboration in a continuous manner, and online. We were all online. If the problem was something more complex, we would then try to fix it by meeting all together so that the next time it wouldn't be present in the game. So that's why we had the pilots also, to make sure that the games would be appropriate and adapted to the children. Then we also focused a lot on the setups. Now, sometimes, you know how technology works. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Do we know why? Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. So what we do is we turn on and turn off and turn on the computer again until it works. And after a few times, it works. So we had many of these issues appear, more at the beginning of the sessions, and then we got used to, and we ourselves, the psychology part, we became more autonomous in handling these situations, even though we knew we had the continuous support of our technical teams. So we went, we took all the material and all of the gadgets with the tablets and made sure that everything was ready for when the children came to play the games. So everything had to be prepared. And you could see here that everything was well prepared in a manner that the children would be comfortable. And it was funny how many of them wanted to put the watch on themselves. They felt really comfortable. They said, oh, I can do that, that's okay. And I really appreciated it because I thought it was difficult to put on that plastic, it's not plastic, it's rubber band on their wrists. So they would take that, that step, they would do that step autonomously and say, no, I can do it, let me do it. You see, I did it really fast. And so that was really good feedback they could give us. And they could also participate in the setup in that bit. And then we had the eye tracking, which was basically when the children had to look at the screen and match their head with the little man in the middle of the screen or the little person. And that would catch the eye tracker's visual, what do you say? Help me out. It would. Has to be in the head box. Yeah, the head box, in the head box. And then they would look at different little animals appear, and their gaze would shift from animal to animal as they appeared on the screen. So, and they were so cute, so the children really appreciated them. Then we made sure that we motivated the children, and that they were motivated in a continuous manner. And we had not only the psychology professionals, but also the technical team participate. We had even the system itself congratulating the children when they actually succeeded, which was quite often, most of the times, which was wonderful. And so it was very positive for them. So there was a lot of motivation and engagement, student engagement throughout all of the sessions. Then, as you can see here, we have some children, we don't show faces, but they were quite savvy in managing all of this equipment. And to be honest, at a certain point, it's really seemed like the children were completely autonomous using all of these gadgets. And sometimes they would tell me, oh, you see that over there? That on top, that's indicating me that I'm going to do something next. And I was like, oh, great. And it was even funnier when I saw some of them in between games. They would look over and they wanted to touch the teacher's application, and they wanted to click on the buttons. And they would ask, oh, can I click on the button? Which one do you want me to click on? So they were very participative, which was great. They were part of all of the implementation part. So we really had high ecological validity. Then we also had certified teacher instructors to do the teacher training. We were amazed at how motivated the teachers were to engage with the system. So we had specific training that was designed for the teachers, and then they could actually engage with the games. This was so positive for them. They are waiting, as I speak right now, for the next steps. They want to engage other students with the games in the next school year. They all had a lot of fun with the games themselves, and because they know their children, the children they work with, they could easily identify, oh, I know that this student or that student probably performed really, really well in this game. And we would know because we were in the sessions, and we would actually respond, you're absolutely right. They had a great performance here. And so they knew which children would probably perform better in some games than others. And that was just really, really gratifying as well. And so we basically just had really, really good feedback from our teachers as well. We had no negative feedback whatsoever. Okay, so in terms of results, this is kind of like the never-ending story. I'm not going to present you with results, just a little example, because we have a lot of results. And so you can read our papers after, and we can make other material available. You can go onto our site and see. We have a site for the project, and you can see the results that are coming out, because some papers are going to be published, they're under review. We also have other types of material, engaging material available. So regarding the wheel game, for example, children would have to identify the emotion and the intensity with which they felt the emotion concerning someone cutting them, for example, in line. And then they would have to wait until the person, the little doll in the game, it's like a social agent, would actually finish playing, and then they would have to report how they felt. What did we find? Okay, with our participants, we had a total of 21 children. But based on the data that we had from 4 participants with ASD throughout the sessions, children relied mostly on cognitive adaptive strategies by thinking, by looking around, by asking for help or requiring help from the teacher. For example, the maladaptive strategies appeared only in emotionally intense situations. For example, if they said they felt envious or anxious or angry, then a maladaptive emotion regulation strategy would appear. So we found that when there were more positive emotions or pleasant emotions, they would report more adaptive emotion regulation strategies. The emotional expression was often of low intensity, so they were not like feeling emotions really intensely because it was a game. Okay, I have to finish off, I'm almost finished. And from the 4, about 3 of them said they felt somewhat indifferent in certain trials, except when, well, like for example, in the 3rd level, when they felt a little bit more tired, and then they would feel angry to have to wait. But this is the type of analysis we're doing, and also other analysis, a longitudinal, but we really have a humongous database, and we have a lot of work that's under course. It's what we're working on right now. Some of it is waiting to be published. Others are already published. And so, so what can we conclude from these small results that I just brought you? That low emotional intensity led to adaptive strategies. And these adaptive strategies are present as a default for these children. And high intensity emotions led to maladaptive emotion regulation strategies, where they felt overwhelmed, for example. They were tired of waiting for the social agent to finish what she was doing. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Paula. Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Aurélie Baranger from Autism Europe. Autism Europe was involved in the dissemination, was a dissemination partner in this project. So we really wanted to communicate the results to the community. We were also involved in the co-design process and in informing the researchers with the views of the community. So that was a bit our role, and we're happy to have the opportunity to present the project results to you today. So now, without any further ado, is there any questions in the room for the team?
Thank you. Sorry for my English. But I wonder this, you say it could be used for early diagnosis. And what I wonder is, will the diagnosis differ based on the games? For example, if someone performs within one games, and could it be said that this person is autism, and while other is at risk for learning disabilities? It could be said that.
Thank you for your question. So my colleague Ilona mentioned that the children had an early diagnosis and that we do not use the platform to diagnose. So we are using the platform to identify the strengths and to identify the difficulties that children have in executive functions. So it cannot be used as a diagnosis. It's just based on their performance and the performance collected with the eye tracker and the wearables and with the games. We can then tell their strengths and weaknesses in terms of executive functions. Okay. And one more thing that maybe we didn't mention, I think it was in my presentation, is that while validating the platform, we use standardized tasks. So we had data collected from teachers, like answering standardized questionnaires and direct tasks applied to children in order to validate the tasks. So now if we say that the platform can be used for assessing attention, it is because we used a standardized questionnaire and a standardized direct task to the child, and the association between the performance of the child in the task that we used and in the games, it's very high. So our results are limited to identifying the profiles, but not diagnosis.
Okay, I mean, say that maybe it could be said that at risk for learning disabilities or autism. Not diagnosis or identification.
Yeah, so even so, it's more about weaknesses and strengths than labeling. So yeah, okay. In any case.
Thank you.
Hello, sorry. It might be a little bit of forward thinking and way too much ahead, but I was wondering, is there any plans or any thoughts on applying these to other populations to measure the weaknesses, strengths, and kind of like support them to build on that, kind of like people with acquired brain injury with these tasks, or people with intellectual disabilities and autism?
Yeah, thank you for your question. So we are a very nice team here, and we plan to continue working on the platform, maybe to translate it to different languages, different kind of children, and also we are planning to have maybe different kind of tasks for older children, and involving also planning, decision making, like higher order executive functions within the platform. So, but for now, the project will end. The project will end this month. It's September already, and we are looking for funding opportunities so that we can continue to work together and to extend the games, or to develop new ones for young adults and maybe adolescents.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to add that if you want to play the games, we have a stand there, and you can just go and play the games today or tomorrow, so you can try them, and we really hope that you will enjoy playing the games. Thank you very much for being here again.